This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize the headlines that you may have missed this morning, and we also take a look at the political pieces we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 20th of July 2021, and I am your host, CS.
I'm Mo.
And I'm AX.
In today's headlines, the nation still haggling as time runs out. In the Standard, DP tactics put Raila Uhuru in tight spot. And in the Star, revealed scheme to delay 2022 election.
All right, so please allow me to begin. But before I actually begin with my analysis, I would like to wish our Muslim brothers and sisters a happy Eid Mubarak. Today, as they celebrate Eid al-Adha, they also commemorate Abraham's faithfulness to God on Mount Moriah. I'm sure many of us are familiar with the story. Abraham was called to sacrifice the one thing he valued most in the world, his son Isaac. And in an incredible act of faith, Abraham agreed to do so, only to be stopped by God. The story extols men and women of faith to trust in God as Abraham did and to be patient. A lesson lost on our hustler-in-chief and principal romancer of churches, William Samoei Ruto. The man from Sugoi, despite the brandishing of his biblical credentials, appears to lack the faith of the chief figure in Abrahamic religions. And this is clear from the Standard's article. Today, the Standard documents Ruto's political philosophy as summarized best by Professor Mutahi Nguni, grabbing instead of being given. Though the article characterizes this philosophy as, at least in the present, demonstrably successful, I would like to remind you of what happens when you grab instead of waiting to receive. When Abraham was Abram, notice the H is missing, and Sarah was Sarai, no H, just an I, they were desperate for a child to fulfill the promise God had made to Abram, that he would have as many children as the stars filled the sky. But past childbearing age, they thought it impossible, and so Abram grabbed, producing a son with Sarai's handmaiden Hagar, named Ishmael. However, Ishmael was not the child that God had promised. Therefore, the promise that God made to Abraham could not and would not be fulfilled through Ishmael. And with Ishmael's birth, conflict now fell upon Abram's household. Conflict between Sarai and Hagar, between Abram and Sarai, and between Hagar and Abram. The beauty and promise of a child were marred because Abram and Sarai grabbed instead of waiting to be given. And eventually Ishmael and Hagar were cast out. Likewise, this is what will befall Ruto. Like Abram, Ruto believes that he can force destiny on his terms and at his time, never mind what the nation needs. And although he believes that the ground is with him, and as such, he should capture the moment, Ruto must still wait. Yes, politics is all about timing, and right now feels like the perfect time to capture the moment. But politics is also about managing interests, not just your own, but the interests of the nation. Ruto represents a continuation of history. And is it really in the nation's best interest that only 2 tribes continue to represent the interests of 47? Or is it only in Ruto's best interest? You see, when you take the time to wait, you have the time to reflect. You have the time to prepare yourself for the blessings that will follow. But when you grab, you remove this critical preparation stage, which makes Ruto ill-prepared for the responsibilities of power. So, as our Muslim brothers and sisters celebrate Abraham's patience and commitment to the Lord, allow me to end with a quote for our hustler-in-chief. It is from the medieval Islamic theologian and spiritual writer Ibn Qayyim. I hope I said that right. And I quote, "If a man's patience is stronger than his whims, then he is like an angel. But if his whims and desires are stronger than his patience, then he is like a devil."
Makes me think of 2 things, actually, as I was listening to you. Number one, it reminds me of the morning star who was cast out from heaven for attempting a coup on the divine. And secondly, it reminds me of profound words that those who do not respect authority do not deserve to be an authority. More, what do you have to tell us?
Here. I like that. Wow, guys. Right. So, my focus today is the headline in the Daily Nation titled, "Still Haggling as Time Runs Out." According to the article, the race to State House is currently in a state of confusion. 1 year to the general election, William Ruto has no clear opponent, so he seems to be campaigning against himself. Right. Raila Odinga is yet to formally declare his presidential candidature, and Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, Alfred Mutua, and Kivutha Kibwana are still deciding whether to run individually or form a coalition. This article reminded me of a concept we have often used here at the Fort Hall School of Government, the scarcity theory of politics. Right? Listen to this, guys. We've said in the past that political scarcity breeds 3 progressive reactions. Competition, then conflict, and finally confrontation. Competition is a market response to a limited supply of goods. The most limited goods in our political marketplace is the presidency. And to secure this political good, or in simple terms, to win the presidential election, you need a strong coalition. And this coalition will have to be ethnic. That is how our politics is organized. There's no other way around it.
Yeah.
If there is any haggling or confusion in the Kenyan political marketplace at the moment, it is because, in my view, we're still in the competition phase. Just like the sellers in Gikomba Market, Mtindwa, Ruto, Raila, Mudavadi, the others have picked a spot and they're shouting, looking for buyers with whom to form ethnic coalitions. 10 bob, 10 bob, 10 bob. And as we all know, negotiations in the marketplace can be loud and noisy. When was the last time we went to a market? However, because this commodity called the presidency is a scarce and valuable resource, our competition is likely to degenerate into conflict. Oh, I hate conflict. Conflict happens when the rules of engagement are unable to process the demand of the contestants. How does this happen? Each leader with an ethnic support base will demand a meaningful position in the coalition. But because there are only 2 positions in our Ferrari presidency, 45 ethnic groups will be left out in the cold, and we run the risk of spiraling from conflict into confrontation. Catch my drift? Given this reality, I wonder why there is such clamor to stop BBI, yet it would bring order to the political marketplace. No longer 10 bob, 10 bob, 10 bob, it will be, what can I get you, sir? Over to you, CS.
Asante. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to address the Star. What you're witnessing when you look at the headline of the Star today is the epitome of the 4th estate being used as agents of choice architecture. But the jury may still be divided on whether this agency is deliberate or inadvertent. Be that as it may, the effect is still unfortunate. But what exactly is choice architecture? Choice architecture refers to the practice of influencing choice by organizing the context in which people make decisions. In this case, it is about how the news can be presented to you so as to elicit certain sentiments and nudge and influence how you perceive certain information. Behavioral science observes that small changes in how choices are presented can have large effects on people's choices. For example, all through the weekend, some papers wanted you to believe that UDA won instead of Jubilee lost, which are 2 very different things. Gema's misplaced frustration with their Mudhamaki, Uhuru Kenyatta, should not be confused with a love for non-indigenous pretenders to the throne. So in a similar way, the Star, in attempting to propagate choice architecture, informs us that some MPs are seeking to petition the High Court to postpone the elections because of a foreseeable constitutional crisis that may arise due to the fact that IEBC has not yet conducted a necessary periodic boundaries review. This necessity for a review is in fact heightened following the most recent census, which set new population quotas per constituency, and which in turn has direct impact on representation and resource allocation. The choice architecture therefore arises in the fact that the Star presents this news by front-loading a subjective qualification. They present this information to you as a scheme to postpone an election. What is a scheme, ladies and gentlemen? Laden with negative connotations, a scheme is defined as a devious plan deployed with the intention of achieving an illegal or wrong outcome. The Star, in breaking this news, does not even pretend to be objective. They hasten to present it to you as something bad and devious from the onset, even before you have had an opportunity to consider the concerns raised by a team of members of the August House, led by Ndaragwa MP Jeremiah Kioni, who is one of the finest minds serving in Parliament and is the chair of the Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee. Even before you've had a moment to understand the pertinent issues being raised by the team of MPs who are proposing a solution aimed at averting a constitutional crisis that may have dire ramifications, the Star is already in a rush to delegitimize the very weighty constitutional issues that are being raised. And yet, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni and his team are not plotting a coup, as some people might. They're not proposing a bill in Parliament to postpone the election. They're respecting the organs of state by seeking to present their argument before the judicial arm of government. So, is the Star suggesting that the constitutional division of the High Court of Kenya is not up to the task of sound constitutional interpretation? Or is the Star, in its agency of choice architecture, also informing us that the judiciary is in on this scheme by Parliament? That said, as students of government at the Fort Hall School of Government, it behooves us to chime in on why such a constitutional crisis should be averted. Such a postponement would be aimed at averting electoral injustice, conflicts that might arise, and securing a smooth transition and continuity of government in the most important country in East and Central Africa. If postponing the election for a few months will achieve this, why the rush to conduct an election for the sake of it, at the cost of instability, conflict, and negating fair representation and equitable resource allocation to millions of Kenyans? Ironically, this is the same conundrum which BBI was seeking to cure, but which choice architects also have been determined to deceive Kenyans about. In any case, this will not be the first time that elections are postponed. Elections were also postponed from August 2012 to March 2013. In fact, at the time, current Supreme Court Justice Isaac Lenaola, who was then a justice of the High Court, asserted that the undertaking of the court was not meant to align with people's preconceived notions about the elections, but instead to give effect to the objectives of the Constitution. Our view as the Fort Hall School of Government is that a holistic reading of the Constitution leads us to conclude that the boundaries review is an essential part of electoral justice, because without it, you will neither have fair representation nor equitable distribution of wealth.
Yes. Powerful words, incredibly powerful.
So we have a three-part criteria that we use to judge the headlines. We ask ourselves three questions. Is the headline topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, thoughtful or just plain lazy?
Yes.
Are we retaining any of these headlines?
Well, we know the Star was plain lazy, capital L lazy.
And we also know the Daily Nation was also plain lazy.
Yeah.
Yes, there seems to be a general apathy amongst Kenyan media, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
So we're tossing all of them once again.
With pleasure.
Kindly.
Oh, with pleasure. Goodbye.
Bye.
So long. You will not be missed.
On to the political pieces we call cartoons in this country. And we have a three-part criteria to break down the cartoons for you. We ask ourselves, are they humorous or dry, satirical or pessimistic, effective or just plain lazy? What cartoon do you have, AX?
Well, I have a cartoon from The Standard, and the cartoonist draws inspiration from that Ugali man meme. I'm sure you guys have all watched that video. In this cartoon, RUTO is the weirdly muscular Ugali man in question, eating a Mount Kenya-shaped mountain of Ugali with meat on the side. And he's calling out, puss, 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 for the Jubilee cat to his, on the floor. And he's trying to give out the scraps. And I really don't understand what the cartoon is trying to say. What do you guys think?
I mean, UDA has one seat in Kiamba and 2 MCA seats compared to Jubilee, which commands a majority in Parliament.
Do they not know we can deflate those muscles? Huh? Cats have claws, my friend.
What cartoon do you have more?
Mine was the one in the Daily Nation. As you can see, so what's happening is that you can see Mount Kenya is split, and there's a few MPs in there, and like when you're about to wade into the swimming pool, so that's what Mudavadi has decided to do, wade in Mount Kenya, and Raila is just looking on like he wants to wade in. Again, why are you guys making fun of a split in Mount Kenya with all those MPs in the middle? They'll be swallowed up by the mountain. And as a good professor once said, you can never buy a Kikuyu. You may rent one, but you'll never buy one. So again, plain laziness.
A day is long in politics.
It
There
is
time.
very, very long.
So in the star, we have a bullseye, a big bullseye, and ballot boxes to the side. And it's basically referring to the recent Kiamba by-election. In the middle of the bullseye, you have Jubilee Vice Chairman Murathe and Jubilee Secretary General Raphael Tuju, and they're saying that they're being unfairly targeted. And I actually do agree with them. They're being unfairly targeted because the bullseye that they're standing on is a handshake, and that handshake brought together Uhuru Kenyatta and DP William Ruto. The deputy party leader of Jubilee has formed a whole new party and has aggressed against the president's backyard and absconded his duties as DP and is campaigning against the party that brought him to power. So yes, Murathe and Raphael Tuju are being unfairly targeted.
Yeah, and this guy, has he read the Political Parties Act? I mean, surely you cannot be in more than one party at the same time. So confused, confused.
So we're noticing a mischief with our cartoons. But all said and done, this has been Winning Headlines. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are also on your TV screens. Find us on Pang Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times. Kindly also switch on your notifications on YouTube.
You should.
God bless.